2:15 in the morning, Susie Streeter said 4 words to her best friend. "Follow me to my house." Stacy McCall said, "Okay, I will." Those are the last confirmed words either of them spoke. Not the last words anyone has ever reported. Not the last words that have ever been speculated about. The last words that anyone, a real person, standing close enough to hear clearly, has been able to place into the record.
Susie and Stacy, good friends?
They used to be friends, good friends back in grade school. She would do things and we called her Spacey Stacy.
Susie Streeter, just 19, wanted to follow in her mother's footsteps and be a hairdresser.
Very outgoing, fun, happy. Susie was a creature of habit.
This is the kind of case detectives lose sleep over. 3 women disappear from a residence in the middle of the night without a trace.
Kathy Kirby was in bed. She was not quite asleep. She heard the girls leave from the front of her house and listened to the sound of 2 cars pulling out of the driveway. One going first, one following. By morning, both cars were parked at 1717 East Delmar Street in Springfield, Missouri. All 3 women's purses were still inside the house. The cigarettes were still on the table. The porch light globe was shattered. A dog was going crazy in the back of the house. A message on the answering machine had been accidentally erased. And 3 women, a mother, her daughter, and her daughter's best friend, had ceased to exist in any place that anyone has ever been able to find.
For weeks, then months, bizarre theories trickle into the Springfield PD.
What you have here, you just have reports after reports after reports. We've seen theories, everything from space aliens to they were grabbed up in their human trafficking angle.
A lead that maybe a guy that was a notorious criminal out in Webster County may have taken them, raped them, and chopped them into pieces and fed them to the pig.
It was June 7th, 1992. No one has heard from them since. This is the case of the Springfield Three, and this is the open file. Springfield, Missouri sits in the Ozarks, in the particular geography of southern Missouri, where the land rolls and flattens and rolls again, where the summers are humid and the winters are sharp, and where a city of a few 100,000 people occupies the comfortable middle ground between urban and rural that defines so much of the American interior. In June of 1992, it was a city where people knew each other's names, where a cosmetologist with 250 regular clients was known by most of them personally, where a high school graduation at the Hammond Student Center drew every proud parent in the county, where a house party broken up by police at 1:50 in the morning was a minor inconvenience on an otherwise celebratory night, not a warning. It is a city that has been marked by this case in a way that cities rarely allow themselves to acknowledge. 33 years later, 3 women, Cheryl Elizabeth Levitt, her daughter Suzanne Susie Streeter, and Susie's best friend Stacy Kathleen McCall, are still classified as missing persons by the Springfield Police Department.
Just a reminder that the ladies are still missing. We still need to be diligent in what we're doing in hopes of finding them.
We would get phone calls about bones being found or this suspect or that suspect, but everything would turn out to be nothing.
No bodies have been found. No arrests have been made. No charges have ever been filed. No one has ever been named a confirmed suspect in the disappearance of 3 women who vanished from a house on a residential street in the middle of a summer night and left almost everything they owned behind. There is a file that has never been closed, and the silence inside it is 33 years old.
We're requesting individuals to look for a burgundy 1987 Toyota Supra two-door.
There was basically no indication that there was anything out of the ordinary other than maybe they just weren't there at the time.
If they find remains there, then we're going to have to deal with it.
I believe that the 3 missing women are buried close to Springfield.
Cheryl Elizabeth Levitt was 47 years old. She'd been born in Bellevue, Washington, into a family that spent weekends camping and hiking along the Pacific coast. One of 2 sisters who grew up close and remained that way into adulthood. She had come to Springfield in 1980 following her sister Deborah, who had moved there for her husband's work, and she had stayed long after Deborah's family moved back to Washington because she had built something worth staying for. She was a cosmetologist at New Attitudes Hair Salon. She was known for being warm, attentive, and genuinely interested in the lives of the people who sat in her chair. More than 250 regular clients is not a number that happens by accident. It is the result of a particular kind of person who makes you feel each time you sit down that you are the most important appointment of the day. She was a single mother. She had raised Susie and her son Bart largely on her own. Through the difficult early years in the new city when money was tight and the support system she had grown up with was 1,000 miles away. By 1992, she had arrived at something that looked very much like stability. She had regular work. She had her daughter living with her. And in April of 1992, 2 months before she disappeared, she had bought her first home. The house at 1717 East Delmar Street was hers. She was already painting it, fixing it, making small improvements that turned a structure into a home. On the night of June 6th, she got off the phone with a friend around 11:15 p.m. They'd been talking about painting and varnishing an armoire in her bedroom. A lazy Saturday night conversation about nothing in particular. She went to bed. Her daughter Susie, was 19 years old. She had grown up without knowing her father, which meant she had grown up knowing her mother in the particular way that becomes possible when there is no one else. Friends describe their bond as unusual for a teenager. Most 19-year-olds are pulling toward independence, but Susie would cancel plans to stay home with Cheryl. They were inseparable in a way that most people don't experience until much later in life, if ever. Susie had struggled in school. She was dyslexic, and the social architecture of Kickapoo High School had not always been kind to someone who processed the world differently. But she had a plan. She wanted to be a cosmetologist, just like Cheryl. She had watched her mother build a career out of warmth and skill and consistency, and she wanted that for herself. Stacy Kathleen McCall was 18 years old, the youngest of 3 daughters. Her mother described her as a daddy's girl. She and her father Stuart shared an easy, teasing relationship that her family would spend the rest of their lives missing. She had been elected to the homecoming court. She worked part-time as a receptionist at Springfield Gymnastics. She modeled occasionally for a local bridal shop. She and Susie had been friends since 2nd grade. The kind of friendship that goes dormant when families move away and then picks up exactly where it left off when they come back, as though the years in between were just a long pause before the next sentence. After graduation, Stacy planned to attend Southwest Missouri State University in the fall. She was ready for what came next. she got a Cocker Spaniel puppy as a graduation gift the day she vanished. The graduation ceremony for Kickapoo High School was held on Saturday, June 6, 1992, at the Hammond Student Center on the campus of Southwest Missouri State University. It began at 4 p.m. Cheryl Levitt was in the seats, watching her daughter walk across the stage. Stuart and Janice McCall were there for Stacy. After the ceremony, Susie and Cheryl went back to the house on East Delmar for takeout pizza. Just the two of them. One last quiet evening before the night the city was going to become for a few hours. Then Susie left to meet her friends. The graduation night moved the way graduation nights do, from party to party across Springfield, from Janelle Kirby's neighbors in Battlefield to a party at the home of Stacy's friend, Michelle Elder. Susie had taken photographs at the Delmar house before leaving with her friend Nigel Kenny. Stacy had her new puppy back home and the whole summer ahead of her. Around 1:50 in the morning, Springfield police broke up the last party. It was a routine call on a busy night. At roughly 2 a.m., Susie, Stacy, and Janelle had returned to Janelle's house in Battlefield, still planning to leave for Whitewater Water Park in Branson the next morning. There was a problem. Janelle's house was overflowing with out-of-town relatives who had come in for the graduation. There wasn't enough space. Susie had been excited to show Stacy a new king-size waterbed recently delivered to her room. The house on East Delmar was 10 minutes away. Kathy Kirby, Janelle's mother, was in bed and not quite asleep when she heard the conversation from the front of the house. She later told police exactly what she heard. Susie said, "Follow me to my house." Stacy said, "Okay, I will." Two cars left the Kirby driveway around 2:15 in the morning. Susie led in her red Ford Escort, personalized license plate that read SWEETR. Stacy followed in her Toyota Corolla. Nobody reported seeing them arrive at 1717 East Delmar Street, but someone was there. Janelle Kirby was worried by 8 a.m. Susie had promised to call Nigel Kenny in the morning to coordinate the drive to Whitewater. Stacy had promised to call her mother. Neither call had come. Janelle tried the Delmar house by phone. The phone rang and rang. She and her boyfriend, Mike Henson, drove over around 9 a.m. The first thing they noticed, both girls' cars were in the driveway. Susie's red Escort, Stacy's Toyota Corolla, Cheryl's blue Corsica in the carport. All three. The front door was unlocked. The second thing they noticed was the porch light. The glass globe that normally covered the bulb was shattered. The glass lay scattered across the porch. The bulb itself was intact. Only the globe was gone. Janelle was barefoot. Mike Henson, not wanting her to step on the broken glass, picked up a broom and swept the porch clean. Police would later determine that the shattered globe may have been the only physical evidence that anything had happened on that porch. By the time they arrived, the glass was in a trash can. Inside the house, the Yorkshire Terrier named Cinnamon was agitated, frantic, in the way dogs become when something has disrupted the order of a home that the dog has been powerless to protect. While Janelle and Mike were standing in the house, the phone rang. A male voice made sexual comments. Janelle hung up. It rang again. Another obscene call. She hung up again. The caller, she later described, sounded young, teenish. She would later recall that Susie had mentioned receiving prank calls since moving into the Delmar house the previous spring. Janelle and Mike left. They went to a local water park instead of Branson, still uncertain whether their friends had perhaps gone somewhere without telling anyone. Several hours later, Janice McCall arrived at the house. She had friends who knew Whitewater employees and confirmed that Susie and Stacy had not been seen there. She walked into the Levitt house and found Cinnamon, just yipping and crying, just going crazy. She found all 3 women's purses on the floor of Susie's bedroom. Cheryl's purse still contained a cash deposit of nearly $900 from her work at the salon. Stacy's clothing from the night before was neatly folded. Her shirt and underwear were missing. Susie's cigarettes were still on the table, which Cheryl's friends would later describe as alarming, because Cheryl was a chain smoker who did not leave cigarettes behind. An unfinished Coke sat next to them. The television in Susie's room was showing snow. They had watched a movie after arriving, but no one had been there to turn it off when the tape ended. On the headboard of Susie's bed was a book. Oh, The Places You'll Go, by Dr. Seuss, a graduation gift, still there. Janice McCall called the police from the telephone on the kitchen wall. And while she was there, checking the answering machine, a reflex, the thing you do when you're in someone's house and panicked, she played a message. She inadvertently erased it. Investigators who would later examine the machine said they believed the message may have contained a clue. They specifically distinguished it from the prank calls Janelle had received. They said they were very interested in what it contained. No one would ever know what it said. By the time Springfield police arrived to formally process the Levitt home, at least 10 to 20 people had already walked through it. Friends, family, neighbors, people who had come to check on the women, who had tidied up while they waited, who had emptied ashtrays and washed coffee cups and moved through rooms without understanding that they were inside a crime scene. When I arrived, the first thing I noticed were several people in the yard. The door was open, and people were coming and going from inside the house, said Springfield police officer Rick Bookout. What police found when they were finally able to process what remained: no signs of a struggle, no broken furniture, no overturned objects, no blood, no defensive marks, nothing that suggested the kind of violent confrontation that should logically have preceded the forced removal of 3 women from a house in the middle of a night. What there was: Cheryl's bed looked slept in. A window blind was bent at an unusual angle, the kind of angle that doesn't happen in ordinary use. Susie's car was not in its usual spot in the driveway, a detail that Nigel Kenny, her co-worker, told police was meaningful because Susie was a creature of habit who parked in the exact same place every time she came home. The fact that her car was somewhere different meant, in Kenny's understanding, that someone else had been in her spot when she and Stacy arrived. One person, investigators would come to believe, could have subdued 3 women with a firearm. No struggle necessary, no noise, no evidence of resistance, because resistance becomes impossible when the thing preventing it is already in the room. The FBI developed a profile. The profile described someone familiar with the area, someone who moved comfortably through the neighborhood at odd hours, someone whose intimates might not believe them capable of violence, someone who needed a larger vehicle, probably a van, to remove 3 people from a property without being seen. That profile was never matched to a name. In the days immediately following the disappearance, Springfield police pursued several lines of inquiry. They were transparent about this in the earliest press statements, naming the kinds of people they were speaking to, if not always the specific names. The chief of police at the time, Terry Knowles, said publicly that they had 3 to 5 individuals of focal interest in the first week alone. Every lead, in the end, fizzled. Dustin Reckler had been Susie Streeter's former boyfriend. A few months before the women vanished, Reckler had broken into a mausoleum at Springfield's Maple Park Cemetery with a friend named Michael Clay and stolen approximately $30 worth of gold fillings from a skull. Susie had found out about it and told police. She was considered a potential witness against Reckler in the coming prosecution. Reckler and his friends were known to be together in the area on the night of June 6th to 7th. He was questioned. He denied involvement. The investigation of him produced no physical evidence linking him to the house on Delmar Street. He was never charged in connection with the women's disappearance. Gerald Carnahan was a businessman in Springfield with a particular history that would, over the following years, become impossible to ignore. He had been named as a suspect in the 1985 murder of Jackie Johns, a young woman from Nixa who had been beaten to death and dumped in Lake Springfield. He was accused of lying to a grand jury about his alibi, but not convicted. He was named in connection with the 1987 death of Debbie Sue Lewis, who had vanished from her car with her purse and keys left inside. An arrangement not entirely unlike what was found at the Levitt house, and whose skeleton was later found in Newton County. He was investigated in connection with the Springfield Three, but no evidence was ever found linking him to the case. In the spring of 1993, less than a year after the women vanished, Carnahan was arrested for attempting to kidnap a woman from a sidewalk near Sunshine Street in Springfield. He served 2 years. In 2007, DNA matched Gerald Carnahan to the murder of Jackie Johns. He was convicted of first-degree murder and rape. He is currently serving a life sentence. He has denied any involvement in the Springfield Three. He told a reporter, "Really have no idea what happened or where they ran off to, the 3 girls." There was a man named Stephen Garrison, a motorcycle gang member, who contacted police in 1993 and said he had information about where the women's bodies were taken. He claimed to have overheard a confession at a drug party. He named a hog farm in Webster County, owned by a convicted murderer, as the disposal site. Police took the tip seriously. They searched the farm. They found nothing. Garrison had asked to be released from jail in exchange for his cooperation. A judge lowered his bail. Police put him up in a hotel. He fled. A few days later, he broke into a woman's apartment in Springfield and attacked her. She survived and testified against him. He is now serving 40 years for rape, sodomy, burglary, and robbery. And then there is Robert Craig Cox. In 1997, 5 years after the women disappeared, a man named Robert Craig Cox contacted investigators. Cox was a convicted armed robber, then imprisoned in Texas on unrelated charges. He would later be convicted of first-degree murder in the 1978 death of a Florida woman. He reached out to Springfield authorities with a specific message. He said he knew what had happened to the women. He said they were dead. He said their bodies would never be recovered. He never admitted to being involved. He said, at some point during his communications with investigators that he would tell more. After his mother died, he did not want her to hear what he had to say. His mother died. He said nothing more. Springfield investigators reviewed Cox as a suspect and concluded that he had no credibility in the case. No evidence placing him in Springfield or near the Levitt house, or connected in any demonstrable way to the three women. They believed he was doing what some people do, inserting themselves into high-profile cases, claiming proximity to something terrible, for reasons that may have nothing to do with the actual crime. But there is a specific quality to what Cox said that has made it impossible to fully set aside. He didn't say, "I don't know what happened to them." He didn't say, "Someone else did this." He said, "They are dead. They will never be found." He said it the way a person says something they know to be true, not because they read it or heard it or speculated about it. The way a person says something that is simply a fact they are carrying. Whether he knew anything real, whether his certainty was informed or performed, is a question that has never been answered. The only thing that can be said with certainty is that in the 28 years since he first contacted investigators, nothing has emerged to contradict what he told them. The women have not been found. Stuart McCall spent his life looking for his youngest daughter. He and his wife Janice became, in the years after June 7th, 1992, the kind of people a city learns to recognize at missing persons events and anniversary commemorations and press conferences where the news is always the same. Nothing new, still missing, still looking. Stuart McCall showed up to everyone. He spoke publicly when he was able to. He was the father who never stopped being the father, even when the daughter had been gone for a decade, and then 2, and then 3. He died in October of 2025. His obituary mentioned his daughter Stacy, the one who disappeared in 1992, along with 2 other women who have never been found. Janice McCall has spoken to reporters over the years about what the investigation did and did not do. In a 2023 interview, she described her belief that investigators had, early on, focused too narrowly. "I think they put all their eggs in one basket," she said, meaning they had a theory, they pursued it, and when it didn't produce an arrest, the trail had gone too cold to redirect. The Springfield Police Department officially still lists all 3 women as missing persons. The case is still classified as open. Whether there is any active investigative work occurring is not something the department has confirmed publicly with specificity in recent years. As of June 2025, 33 years after the women vanished, the investigation appears, by all external measures, to have reached a point that is indistinguishable from stillness. On December 31st, 1992, a man called the America's Most Wanted hotline and said he had information about the women's disappearances. The call was disconnected when the operator tried to link him through to Springfield investigators. Police said publicly that the caller had prime knowledge of the abductions. They made a public appeal for him to call again. He never did. There is a book on Susie Streeter's headboard that has probably not been moved since 1992. Oh, The Places You'll Go. It is the book adults give to young people at graduations. At the moment when a life transitions from one chapter to the next, when everything that has been building is finally released forward. It is a book about possibility, about the largeness of what comes next, about the particular way that 18 and 19 years old feel when you are standing at the edge of a life you haven't lived yet. It was on her headboard on the night she came home for the last time. A porch light was shattered. An answering machine message was erased. A crime scene was swept clean before the police arrived. A man in a Texas prison said they were dead and would never be found. A hog farm in Webster County was searched and yielded nothing. A parking garage at Cox Hospital was scanned with ground-penetrating radar and found 3 anomalies that may or may not mean anything. A father drove himself to the edge of his own life looking for his daughter and died in October of 2025, not knowing where she was. No bodies, no arrests, no resolution. What is known, what has always been known, what has never been contradicted, is this. 2 young women said goodnight to their friend and drove through a dark Springfield neighborhood at 2:15 in the morning, following a license plate that said SWEETR, toward a house where a woman was already asleep in a bed she had bought herself for the first time in her life. In a home she had been painting and decorating and making exactly the way she wanted it. They arrived. Their cars were there in the morning. Their purses were inside. Their cigarettes, their keys, their money, their dog. Everything except them. It is a case with no arrests, no clear motive, no resolution, no final statement from the people who were there, no record of what happened after the headlights went dark in the driveway on East Delmar Street. 33 years of nothing, distributed evenly across every year since. And sometimes, in cases like this, that weight is all that remains.